If you ask me, nothing hits the proverbial spot like ice cream. And while I might argue that there's no such thing as bad ice cream, once you've locked spoons with a super premium ice cream, well, you're ruined for life. Why? Well, because they are high in carbs, high in fat, and usually high in price. Pound for pound, premium ice creams are just about the most expensive foods the Mega Mart has to offer. And
sir, can I unlock that Ralph and Jeremy's triple choco latte ginger crunch for you?
I was just looking.
Well, let's keep our looking from the other side of the glass, shall we?
Okay. So that's how it is. Fine. I think this is a freezer case for... If we're going to manufacture our very own super premium ice cream, the first thing we have to do is figure out exactly what a super premium ice cream is. I mean, does this carton contain some kind of special ingredient, or does it simply bear a very, very large price tag? I wonder what the federales would say. Food and Drug Administration recognizes 4 primary categories of frozen dairy product in the dessert form. Ice creams must contain a minimum of 10% butterfat. French style or frozen custard ice creams must also contain 1.4% egg yolk solids. Ice creams that don't contain eggs are generally referred to as Philadelphia style ice creams. Reduced fat ice creams must contain 25% less total fat than the original reference product. Light ice cream must contain 50% less total fat or 33% fewer calories than the original reference product. Low-fat ice creams can contain no more than 3 grams total fat per 1/2 cup serving. Half a cup? You call that a serving?
Let me take him down, sir.
Maybe in a minute. Non-fat ice cream must contain less than 0.5 grams of total fat per serving. So it's not non-fat, it's actually very, very, very low fat. Okay, non-fat it is. Air content or overrun may not exceed 100% of the total volume in any of these products. And if over 50% of the flavoring agent is artificial in nature, the product must be labeled as
chocolate flavored ice cream.
Strawberry flavored ice cream.
As for terms such as economy, regular premium, and super premium, these are marketing terms and are not regulated by your government. Anything else? Yes. A gallon of commercial ice cream had better weigh a minimum of 4.5 pounds or someone's going to get a visit. Let's move out. Here we have 1 pint of super premium ice cream and it weighs 440 grams. Here we have half a gallon. That's 4 pints of light ice cream and it weighs 1,070 grams. Now, if we were to multiply this times 4 to get this volume, we would end up with 1,760 grams, which means that this ice cream, all things being equal, weighs 1.63 times what this one does. That's a lot more. How is this possible? What's going on? Let's find out. If you want to get the truth about volume, the first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of the air. And the best way to do that is to melt the ice cream. So I simply put my samples inside glass and nuked them at relatively low power until they were all deflated. Well, I'd say this tells the tale. When melted, our pint of super premium ice cream is still 85% its original volume, while our budget light ice cream is only 62% of its original volume. That means that the person that bought this ice cream bought a lot of air, or overrun, which is not to say that air is a bad thing. The third thing that we could do to identify a super premium ice cream is to take a look at its structure under a powerful microscope, which I don't have. So I'm going to compare it to a baked good. And yes, this does make sense. After all, an ice cream is essentially a foam structurally, as is baked goods such as cakes and breads. Now, let's say for just a moment that this slice of pound cake is actually a core sample from our premium pint. Lights! Now, if you were to light it up from behind, you would see a very, very fine and uniform bubble structure, okay? Now, when this is in an ice cream, what you end up with, lights, is an ice cream that is very dense but velvety on the tongue and very, very slow to melt in the bowl. Yum. Now, conversely, if we were to take a core sample of our budget half gallon of ice cream, it would look a lot like this rustic bread. Let's take a look. Lights. Now, you see how the bubbles are very non-uniform. Some of them are very big, some tiny. It's just a mess. Now, this can be very tasty in bread, but not so much so in ice cream. Lights! In ice cream, this kind of structure creates something that's very kind of flat and dull feeling on the tongue, and it melts very, very quickly in the plate. So we can see that bubble structure is a very, very important thing. But then, of course, so are the ingredients that make the bubbles possible. Let us now ponder the primary parts list of a premium ice cream. We have ice, we have sugar, we have air, all of which are very easy to find. We're also going to need protein for bubble construction, a fair amount of fat, some emulsifiers, and various salts, and of course flavorants, which we'll get to. Most of these things can be got through a cunning combination of eggs, and by eggs, of course, I mean grade A, large chicken eggs, standard of the industry, and dairy. And dairy is where things are going to get a little bit tricky. Gracious, but have you ever beheld such a cornucopia of milkiness? Look, we've got, of course, whole milk, but then we've also got skim milk and 1% milk and 2% milk and half of every different kind. There might even be a 3% milk that I'm missing. And we've got light cream, and of course, we have got heavy cream. The main difference in all these, of course, is fat content. Time to do a little experiment. Having formulated and tested hundreds of different combinations, I have decided, without a doubt, that the best formula for a premium vanilla-based ice cream is 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please. Okay, so maybe some explanation. What I mean, of course, is that the secret to a fine premium vanilla-based ice cream is 9 ounces of sugar, vanilla sugar if you can make it. And all you have to do is shove a pot or two in the sugar and let it sit for about a week, be a nice flavor. 8 egg yolks, 3 cups of half and half, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now, we're only making vanilla ice cream here. If I was making a different ice cream, we would use a different amount of a different flavor, depending on if it was an extract or an oil. More on that later. Last but not least, 1 cup of heavy cream. That's right, heavy cream. Look, I said I would help you make premium ice cream. I didn't say anything about low-carb ice cream or low-fat ice cream or low anything else ice cream. As far as I'm concerned, ice cream shouldn't be low anything. It should just taste good. Now, ingredients are very important, and I think we've got a good balance here, but how they are assembled, now, that's what really matters. Kick up your favorite neighborhood burner to medium, apply your favorite medium saucepan, and add both the cream and the half and half. And let this come just to a simmer. Now, this step is called scalding the dairy. And although scientists are still arguing over what is actually achieved here,
It's the proteins.
It's the enzymes.
The proteins.
Enzymes.
personally, I think heat changes everything. But when you consider the fact that those dairy products over there have already been heated during pasteurization, named after the father of food science, Louis Pasteur, I suspect that the real reason has to do with generating enough heat to gently cook the eggs that we will soon be adding to that mixture. And of course, it has to do with extracting flavors, because now is the time that would be extracting flavor from, say, vanilla beans if we were using vanilla beans, but we're not using vanilla beans. While the dairy heats up, whisk the yolks until they are light and creamy. Think of this as shaking up a bottle of salad dressing. After all, an egg yolk contains water and fat as well as emulsifiers. If we skip this step and just dump the sugar in there, the sugar, being hygroscopic, will grab hold of the available water, leaving the fat and emulsifiers out of the union. Thank you, Thing. And that would lead to a less than ideal custard. That's right, kids. Premium ice creams are made from stirred custards. Now, as for the sugar, the key, go slow. Just barely sprinkle the sugar into the eggs while whisking with great vigor. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time, but eventually the mixture will lighten in color and thicken until it'll actually fall off of the whisk in kind of a long ribbon. It's called the ribbon stage, and it is important that you do this right. Why? Well, the proteins in the eggs are very vulnerable to heat. Let's just pretend for a second that those proteins are portrayed by this little hula dancer. Here's how it works. So the proteins are just floating around in the eggs, and then here comes the oven's intense heat. Oh no! no! I'm gonna roast and coagulate! Save me, Captain Sucrose!
I'll save you. I'm Captain Sucrose. And Captain Sucrose, with his gigantic molecular structures, gets in between all that heat and the proteins.
Well, thank you, Captain Sucrose.